Welcome to the At the Coalface podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. This podcast is all about what it's really like in the trenches of digital and e-commerce. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the At the Coalface podcast with me, Jason, your host. And it is my very great pleasure to introduce to you from RiseAI. He is the founder and CEO of Rise. Welcome, Yair.
Hi, Jason. It's great to be here.
It's so good to have you here. I was talking just briefly before we started the official podcast episode, and I said, look, I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan for a very long time of Rise as a senior solution architect in our space. Your platform solves a myriad of problems, especially as it relates to Shopify. It is a very full-featured solution, and I've been a fan for a long time, been a fan of the platform, been a fan of you. Wix acquired Rise in May of 2021. That news actually surprised me. I wasn't expecting that. That felt like it came a little bit out of the blue, and I was just hoping, hey, hopefully Rise stays as awesome as it is despite being acquired. Because, man, do you solve a lot of pain in the e-commerce world. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was a very exciting year for us, for sure.
Awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about what Rise is for those that don't know. So if we think about Rise as almost like an e-commerce currency for an e-commerce website. I know that sounds a little bit broad, but if you bear with me, this is almost how I see it. Now, you guys take a whole bunch of pain away around gift cards, referrals, loyalty, returns and refunds, rewards, employee recognition. You deal with so many things in the one platform, and it's plug and play with Shopify. It's literally plug it in, install the app, turn it on, make a couple of configurations, and you're off to the races, and it just solves so many problems. Now, if we unwrap that just a little bit and we say one of the major things that we're solving for, two of the major things we're solving for here is the existing really super poor experience in native Shopify with their gift card system. So the Shopify gift card system, for those that don't know, has some pretty severe limitations associated with it. When you buy a gift card, it gets emailed to you with a code. You have to forward the email to the recipient. It's not dressed nicely. It doesn't look like a gift. You're effectively just forwarding an email. And then even though you've maybe assigned it to someone or you want to send it to someone, it's not really assigned or attached to their account in any way. And so therefore they can't see the balance of that gift card until they get to check out in Shopify. And then and only then does it tell you whether you've got enough gift card balance to pay for your order or any shortfall so that you can then pay with an alternate payment method for them. And then if we look at the function of store credit, which is something that a lot of brands want to have, they want to, if somebody returns something for a refund or whatever, then one of the approaches that they like to take is giving the customer a store credit so that they can just effectively easily reuse that balance on the store. And it can be assigned to their account, automatically applied at checkout, and we're off to the races. Other platforms like BigCommerce and other platforms have native store credit functionality built in. Shopify does not. A lot of people don't know that either. So in Shopify, you tend to have to issue a gift card instead of a store credit. And we already know how painful gift cards are on Shopify. So that is not an easy fix. There's other limitations. Obviously, Shopify doesn't have an out-of-the-box loyalty program, which is why there are so many loyalty apps for it. There's quite a few gaps in native Shopify. And Shopify's, I guess, modus operandi is to rely on third-party app vendors to plug those gaps because they're not going to build out every single piece of native functionality in their platform. They are looking to partners. And one of the things I love about your platform is, as a solution architect on my side, because you fill so many of those gaps with one easy, almost like a single click installation, that has a dramatic difference on the end customer experience that might be interacting with that Shopify store. So I'm guessing that given the breadth of the platform and the depth of the platform, that you were either scratching an itch, meaning you had a Shopify store and you weren't happy with the functionality, or you simply saw a massive gap in the market and went, man, this is a gap big enough to drive a truck through. We're going to go solve for it.
So actually, it was the second one. Because I came from a tech background, we're actually looking for problems to solve. That's why we started with a pure gift card product solution, understanding the complexities of offering a good gift card experience. You said it right. There are some major functionality gaps when it comes to Shopify native gift cards. And then with time, we started to offer pretty much the basic of the gift card experience, such as sending the gift card to another person through email or instant message, scheduling the gift card. And with time, we started to offer more advanced gift card solution, such as multi-channel gift cards, when you can use it offline and online, and multi-store gift card, when you can use the same gift card on different ends. So understanding the problems of gift cards from the merchants really helped us to offer more advanced gift card solution, even when you take the basic one that Shopify had before.
That's fantastic. And how, like when you first started scoping this, did you contact a few different major Shopify store owners and say, hey, look, we'd love to interview you. We'd love to understand at a really deep level where the pain really lies, so we're genuinely solving a problem and maybe trying to find product market fit before we even write a single line of code. When you come from a project management background, you've founded other businesses, you've been an entrepreneur before. And look, this feels, you clearly know what you're doing. You're clearly very technical. What was the market research? What did that look like? What did that phase look like?
Yeah, if there is any partner listening to this podcast, I would urge him to speak with as many merchants as he can, even if many of us open the store in some stage, and yet talking with different brands from different industries really helped us to scope the problem. Everyone, I guess I very strongly remember our first paying customer, a newspaper online store from Arkansas. But with time, talking with different stores from different industries, it definitely helped us to understand the gap. And that also helped us to listen to other problems that merchants and shoppers had. And you talked about it, but actually, I would say that store credit might be a bigger issue for many merchants than the gift card, just because it's a very essential part of customer retention. And through the life cycle of a customer, you'd want to use store credit in many different points, and Shopify wouldn't allow you to do this. And understanding that gift card is just a private name, but the family name is store credit, we started to offer more and more store credit solutions and applications to help stores get the right experience for their.
Makes complete sense. Now, the other thing that I love about Rise is the fact that you have an API suite. Now, I don't know, because I wasn't working. You guys have been around for a heck of a long time now. You've been around over 6 years now. And I wasn't working with you guys when you first released V1 or the MVP of your product. So I don't know what the very first version of your product looked like. I started working with your product probably starting about 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago. And it was already pretty fully featured by that point, but I noticed you've added some even more functionality since then, which is awesome. But one of the things that I absolutely love is that a lot of the apps that you get in the Shopify App Store, they not only work with Shopify and don't work with any other platform, but oftentimes there's not a lot you can do with them outside of the admin control panel. So maybe you can upload a CSV into them. Maybe you can download a CSV, for example, but very few of them allow you to easily connect to them via API so that you can trigger off certain things to happen from other systems. Maybe it's an ERP, maybe it's an ePOS system, maybe it's a PIM system. But there's a lot of requirement for a lot of these apps to be able to be connectable to systems other than Shopify. And your system allows that to be possible. Was that always on your radar, or was that something that came later that you said, hey, we can actually make our platform a heck of a lot more valuable and useful if other systems can connect to it other than just Shopify?
Okay, so it's always on our roadmap. I can say that when building the architecture of our product, we kept thinking about the next phase and figuring out the different technological stacks that come with gift card and store credit, just because it's a very interesting junction between payments and store catalog. We understood we'll need to have a very good access of outside parties. So for example, our API helped us to build a very good integration with subscription companies, which obviously, if you don't use Rise, the gift card of Shopify or other platforms wouldn't work for the subscription part of the checkout. And that's definitely something we kept in mind and still trying to develop in order to support a lot of different use cases, such as headless stores and many other advanced solutions that today's world require brands to develop.
Yeah, look, that makes total sense. And I guess sounds like you had your finger on the pulse from day one of you were very much customer led, you were very much merchant led. Where are the gaps? What are the pain points? Where can we add value to our product? And one of the things that has always astounded me about your product is the extremely affordable pricing. Like it feels almost too cheap, and maybe that was always the intent right from day dot. Your pricing tiers, you're a SaaS platform, so it's run like a SaaS platform. You've got annual and monthly subscriptions available, and you have tiers. You got your starter, small business, pro, premium, and for starting at $16.99 a month, someone can implement Rise. They can use, as far as I'm aware, this is not per module. This is, you get access to the entire platform for that $16.99 a month. Yes, you are limited to a number of orders, but it's not like you charge per module. It's basically, you get the entire platform. Your tiers are based on the number of orders that are going through the system, and that's basically how you charge. And you get a discount, a 20% discount if you sign up and pay annually for your tier. And basically, it is very close to being plug and play. Yes, there's some minor configuration that needs to be done to get up and running. Well, literally within an hour, anyone can plug in the system, they can pay their $16.99, and they can get up and started with Rise. Yeah?
Yeah, that's right. We are big believers in a pay-as-you-grow model when we help our merchants to grow. And our idea is definitely to leverage, for the merchants, obviously, to leverage all of the products that we offer in order to grow. So, for example, we have a product called Store Credit Refund, when merchants can easily refund customers with store credit and restock the product and all the rest. That's something that many times, according to our data, the merchants start to use only after they already implemented the gift cards and the basic store credit and loyalty functionality. But that's exactly the goal. We understand that the branded currency is one of the revolutions the D2C world created. So we want our brands to use as many products as they can, and that's a win-win situation for everyone.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Very typical SaaS model, pay as you grow.
Yeah.
Never exactly heard that terminology. Absolutely love that as well. And I guess if there was any complaint I had about the platform at all, ever, was that it's not available, at least as of right now. You built it really from the ground up to seamlessly integrate into Shopify, solve pain points on the Shopify platform, but you don't have any out-of-the-box integrations with any other e-commerce platforms. And as you say, it would be a custom integration with a headless, implementation, or if you wanted to use it on, Magento or BigCommerce or anything like that, it'd be a custom integration via API using your API suite. Was there ever any vision at any point to say, hey, actually, if we build out integrations with other e-commerce platforms and make it as easy to implement as we do on Shopify, we could actually go out there and get a pretty big piece of the market? Or did you think to yourselves, actually, we're going to stick to our knitting. We're going to focus on Shopify. Nearly 2 million websites on the Shopify platform. So it's by far the biggest e-commerce platform specific market in the world. So therefore, that feels to us like the place we need to spend the most, all of our time.
Jason, it looks like you participated in our last board of director meeting. But definitely, obviously, Shopify as the leading D2C platform was a great place for us to start. And we keep investing a lot of effort into developing the most advanced store credit platform for Shopify merchants. Actually, we're just about to one of the most requested features ever, which is custom value gift cards, when customers can just write the value of the gift cards without variants. We'll release it for Shopify in the next quarter. And then again, we understand that being a gift card provider, meaning being the one that creating the 16 digits and not just getting it from the platform, help us to be much more flexible with different solutions that we can provide. And for that, actually, right now, we're already the native gift card solution. We're a first-party gift card at Wix. And in the next year or so, we're definitely looking into growing our product to more markets and building a better fit for platforms such as Magento and WooCommerce. So stay tuned.
That is a beautiful segue into the discussion about your acquisition by Wix. And as I said earlier, acquired in May of 2021. The terms of the deal weren't disclosed, so I won't be cheeky and ask you the terms of the deal. But obviously, it was compelling enough for you to sell your company, and that's always I guess that being a business owner myself and having sold businesses in the past, it's always a hard decision when you sell your baby, and it's hard to know when's the right time. Are you selling it too soon? Are you selling it too late? You want to make sure that your team's looked after, and man, there's just so much that goes into selling a business and making sure that it's fairly valued and all of the rest. And the fact that to this day, you're still running the business day to day as the CEO of the business. Obviously, when Wix came to you, was it Wix approaching you because they saw how amazing your product was, or did you make it known to the market, hey, we're looking to potentially be acquired? Or how did the whole thing eventuate? How did this situation come to be? Because Wix is not known as the world's best e-commerce platform. Yes, it's a point and click. It's a WYSIWYG editor. It's known as more of a CMS type platform. They've got a bolt-on for e-commerce, and there's lots of platforms out there like Wix, similar to like Squarespace and the like, where they've bolted on e-commerce after the fact because they realized that they're missing a trick if they didn't support e-commerce merchants. So they've added it after the fact. And of course, what that means by definition is that they're starting way behind the curve from an e-commerce functional perspective compared to somebody like a Shopify or a BigCommerce or Magento. And so I'm sure from Wix's perspective, it allows them to leapfrog having to develop all your functionality in-house. And by acquiring you, they can instantly and almost overnight integrate it into Wix and make it a native piece of functionality. And it helps them to get a jump on the market. So how did that whole deal come to even?
So I might start by saying that we didn't plan to sell the company. I think it's very common that founders, when they don't plan to sell, that it might just happen one day. And yeah, we've been reached out by several companies, and we didn't think it's the right time, it's the right fit. We all felt that with Wix, it's different for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's an amazing company with amazing DNA and atmosphere. I can say, after almost a year working for Wix, that this is a very great place to be and to grow. One of the reasonings of the acquisition over here was to create a complete separation between our platform and the things that we do for merchants outside of Wix and the things that we do for Wix. So basically the way we do it is just by, as you mentioned, we're creating a Chinese wall between these two different activities. And I'm keep running the RiseAI company as an independent company working on platforms that unrelated to the day-to-day Wix activity. Having said that, the other part of the company is building the internal products for the Wix e-commerce platform that definitely, in terms of numbers and quality, we see a tremendous progress in the level and the quality of the e-commerce platform that Wix built and offered.
Yeah, look, it totally makes sense when you think about, I guess, where these platforms are, from a Wix to a Weebly to a Squarespace, all the, what I would consider, even WooCommerce. Even though they're technically, WooCommerce is the most deployed e-commerce platform in the world, I don't consider it the most deployed dedicated e-commerce platform because it's effectively a bolt-on to a CMS. If we're looking at pure e-commerce platforms, we're talking about Shopify is by far the most deployed pure e-commerce platform in the world, where the CMS functions of Shopify come second to the e-commerce functions. Sure, they've got web pages and a blog and all that sort of stuff, but they're not focused on that. They're focused on e-commerce functionality, and it's not a second afterthought. It is the first thought. And of course, Toby built it to be an e-commerce platform out of the box. When we look at these other platforms, one of the reasons that they lack so much core e-commerce functionality is because they didn't start as e-commerce platforms. E-commerce was added later, almost as an afterthought. And the platforms that didn't have e-commerce functionality at the start of COVID, my goodness, did they add it pretty quick, or did they expand that functionality pretty rapidly? And when we think about somebody like a WooCommerce, that's fairly and squarely targeted SMBs. And it's really not, if you're any kind of an enterprise merchant, you would never run WooCommerce. You wouldn't even consider it. So do you see a diversion or a divergence in Rise where you're going, well, actually, we need to develop maybe some slightly new or unique functionality that perhaps plays nicer with a smaller market, the smaller end of the market. But then there's perhaps some enterprise level merchants, say on Shopify Plus or some of the other more enterprise focused platforms like your Salesforce Commerce Cloud, etc., where your VTexes of the world, where we actually need to all commensurately develop more high-end functionality for those merchants that really want to get crazy with some of the programs that they run.
Yeah, so definitely our vision is to be the world's leading SaaS store credit company. And for that, you mentioned our API. We're investing heavily in our API in order to build a platform that would be relevant for big merchants with a customized solution on or off a SaaS platform, that they can use us and our API in order to build a very slick store credit solution. I can give you a nice example from the last couple of months. Playtika is a gaming company using us to sell gift cards and store credit outside of their gaming app. They had some crazy campaigns now around Valentine's Day with very strong numbers, and it's not even e-commerce, but it's easy for them to use our product just because it's very SaaS oriented and the integration is very easy for them. Keep that in mind. There are so many POS companies and platforms today. We understand that we won't be able to build the right fit to all of them the way we did for Shopify, but our understanding of the industry and of the market helps us to create and provide API that could help a lot of different brands from different industries to have a very significant gift card and store credit solutions for their own needs, which might be different, but it's always related to engagement with customers and with customers.
Sounds like a good plan to me, my friend. Now, what is in the water over there in Israel? You're based in Tel Aviv, if I get that right. Now, I've had the guys from Balance Payments on the podcast before. I've done projects with the guys from Celebros. They have one of the most amazing site search platforms in the industry, also Israeli-based. There's a lot of really big, heavy-hitting e-commerce platforms and supplementary platforms, SaaS technologies coming out of Israel, attacking the e-commerce space very strongly, seeing massive success, seeing incredible global VC investment. What is in the water in Israel that is creating this massive groundswell of e-commerce support? Because I don't know much about what is the percentage of e-commerce penetration of retail in Israel. I don't know what those numbers look like. I know what the numbers are for Australia, New Zealand, America, but I'm guessing that e-commerce must have massive penetration in Israel given the amount of focus there from the tech companies in.
Yeah. So funnily enough, the e-commerce industry in terms of shops, I would say it's, 10 or 8 years behind the American market and the Australian market, just because they started late. But as you mentioned, There are a lot of high-tech companies here. The high-tech industry is booming. The reasoning that they always say is that it's a country with not enough resources, such as, gas or oil or whatever. People have to be creative. And e-commerce definitely is one of the industries when there are a lot of companies and a lot of different technological solutions helping merchants to build their business. I can say that at least for me, being a part of, it's very similar to Shopify. There is a very strong ecosystem that helps us to grow because you can ask other people questions and get some help in things that you don't know, and obviously you can help them. So it's very similar here with the ecosystem. There is a lot of help between different companies, and obviously the pool of talents is also a big advantage.
That's so good to hear. That really is, because I tell you, when I look at the industry through my lens, the thing that probably keeps me attached to the industry in the way that I am is because of the people in it. And after you've been in the industry for a few years, you start to realize that we are still, in terms of total retail, we're tiny minnow when we compare. Yes, we've grown very fast through COVID and everything else, but we were starting off a very low base in terms of total penetration of total retail. And so relatively speaking, compared to say IT or other tech verticals other than e-com, we're still a very small community that plays in this space. And of course, with COVID, trying to find qualified people, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. The demand went through the roof for developers and for specialists in our space. And we just realized, geez, there's not enough of us. And we could double the people in our industry overnight and still not have enough people in our industry to grow at the rate we want to grow at. And that is have you seen that as well? Have you seen that, hey, despite the fact that there's a deep tech bench in Israel, that still we're just not churning out enough people from our industry that are qualified to do what we do?
Yeah, definitely, Jason. That's a huge pain. The fact that there is an ecosystem. I guess the other side here is that there are a lot of companies and HR teams trying to look for the best and the brightest. It's not something that is special to Israel. That's something that I know from tech companies all over the world. It's very difficult to find the right people. At least in my perspective, building the right culture and the right DNA was the best way for us to grab the best people, because that's what people are looking after. But having said that, I would say that is probably one of my biggest challenge as a CEO today.
I believe it, and almost everyone else that I've interviewed and all the people that I'm talking to in the space, resourcing is the challenge. And as you rightly point out, you're not going to compete against the Apples, the Facebooks, the Googles of the world. You're not going to be able to outpay them, so you have to outvision them. And there are incentives for these developers that can work internationally now with the era of remote work, and they can work for any company in the world. The reality is you're bringing a vision to them that they want to align themselves with, and they don't necessarily want to go work for a nameless, faceless, massive global multinational. They sure, maybe for a while, because they perhaps want to be able to put Google on their resume, but oftentimes they won't want to stay there forever despite the money, because they want to be a part of something that they feel has some significant meaning to them and to the world. And obviously building that vision, you've been able to build that vision, and you've been able to attract people to join that vision.
Definitely. And again, every company might find its own vision and the one that it's the best fit for the company. I can say that here, for example, our goal is to create an atmosphere when people love to come to work. In terms of today, hybrid is a very popular word. And then again, I'm very proud of the fact that the employees that can come to the office always come to the office, just because they love to come to the office. So that's a good example of how you can win the apples of the world.
Sounds good to me. Now, what are you guys thinking in terms of Web3? Now, obviously, it's still early days. Those of us in tech are, deeply immersed in it and starting to learn more about it and perhaps become involved in some Web3 projects. Cryptocurrencies are seeing adoption like I've never seen before, and I'm starting to wrap my head around that and what that means for the world and the value of specific blockchains and how they perform. Are you guys starting to think about blockchain tech? Are you starting to think about distributed Web3 tech? Are you starting to think about cryptocurrencies and perhaps needing to support crypto in Rise? What is Rise's thinking today around Web3 and how that may impact you specifically and the industry more broadly over the next, say, 1 to 5 years?
Yeah, so luckily enough, our CTO, Tamir, is also a very big fan of Web3 and cryptocurrency technologies. So, he started to talk with me about it before it became that hyped, which helped us to understand and scoping the issue better. Then again, there are so many questions around it. I can say that for us, we do have some upcoming partnerships that is related to that, but we have two main things that we R&D in terms of crypto today. The first is the gift card itself. As we mentioned, basically it's a branded currency. And if someone wants to gift his friends Bitcoin, for example, but with any other currency, supporting this, as we mentioned, we're in an interesting junction between the wallet and the checkout and the payment gateways to the store itself. Being able to support it through crypto is challenging, and we're looking into this in many ways. The other thing that is very much related to what we do is loyalty. Our loyalty programs work with many brands, and at least some of them already reached out to us, trying to figure if they can do, for example, an NFT collection and customers can get this product only if they're VIP customers, or if they're tier 1, gold VIP, whatever they want to. And building that requires some infrastructure. We talked about platform. Shopify already launched the NFT pilot version. But yes, currently it's not enough for many bells and whistles that we want to offer when it comes to a good loyalty solution that we want to offer to our merchants. But we're definitely trying to understand the latest developments over there, and we might be able to provide a solution if it will be a little bit more mature.
Makes sense to me. I was really interested to see Solana Pay being announced earlier this month. And I think that concept and that model of that peer-to-peer payments method underpinned by a very high adoption rate crypto itself, which is obviously Sol, hugely adopted and one of the highest market share cryptos in the market today. And so I'm watching all this stuff emerge, and it's so funny because you see these patterns, right, start to play out in tech. When you've been in business as long as we have in the tech space, when I was young, and you look quite a bit younger than me, so you probably are quite a bit younger than me, but I remember pre-internet, I remember internet being introduced, and now we're in a post-internet world. And so it's very interesting to see all the patterns that have developed in terms of high-tech adoption by the general public. And I see it only accelerating. When we think about the internet and how long it took for the internet itself to become mainstream, when we look at how long it took for smartphones and smart devices to become mainstream, all of the time, basically every single new major game-changing tech, the time to adoption from the early adopters to the laggards, that curve is massively compressing. And whilst we may think today, there's no chance that within 5 years, half the major retail consumers will be spending more than an hour a day in VR. I think if anything has proven that's a distinct possibility, it is the rise and the adoption of the smartphone and social media. And I think that anybody who counts out or discounts the fact that virtual reality is going to become a serious thing once we have more killer apps. So when we think about the adoption of the smartphone, obviously there's some killer apps that cause that to be adopted at a great rate of knots. I think Web3 is now going to start bringing some of those killer apps and killer experiences to the market. And I'd love, not to get too much off on a tangent here, I want your specific thoughts on how do you think the likes of Shopify are going to face down and deal with the move away from a 2D flat screen device-based interaction with e-commerce to a completely 3D virtualized e-commerce experience, and how, at least as far as I'm aware, yes, they're way ahead of the curve. NFTs, being able to mint NFTs on the platform, sell NFTs on the platform. No other e-commerce platform I'm aware of supports that yet. So they're ahead of the curve there. And obviously, Toby just joined the board of Coinbase, so he's very up to play. It really almost comes down to Shopify is going to have to rewrite their entire platform or write a Shopify 2 platform that is completely VR. And so I'd love your thoughts on how these major e-commerce platform vendors, how do you think they're going to deal with the embrace of Web3?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think that you mentioned that in the question, changes are so constant and so rapid that it is almost impossible to give a good prediction of what exactly is going to happen in the next couple of years. I can say that at least brands that we work with, and that's probably a broader concept when it comes to tech developers, to app developers, to partners, we must take into account the changes in terms of how VR would affect me as, for example, as a gift card provider, how it affects the branded currency concept. So obviously we can see now that brands already talk about the coin that they would offer through Metaverse and the way you'll be able to buy, clothes at American Eagle in your Metaverse session. And that these kind of things help us to talk about where we want to be in 3 years from now and in 1 year from now in terms of the solutions that you want to provide and how we can support this. I can say again that the entrepreneurs, the founders, I think that the focus is always a great issue when it comes to go-to-market strategies. So I think that they need to understand when is the great timing. You talked about the killer apps as something that pushed Web 2.0 and e-commerce and mobile and a lot of other stuff. And I completely agree. And I think that the timing of jumping into the sea ocean, I guess, to jumping into the NFT world and into the Metaverse world might be something that's be related to the maturity of the infrastructure. Because as I mentioned today, for example, it's not that easy to build a good product with a good user experience when it comes to NFT. And once Shopify develop or any other platform develop infrastructure that allows and partners to offer the right solution, I think it makes much more sense to dive into this and starting to actually develop the.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more there. And I guess because you're an API-enabled platform, it almost doesn't matter whether the sales channel is a 2D website or a 3D metaverse experience. At the end of the day, it's going to be fairly easy for a brand to plug into your platform and do whatever it is that they want to do, creating that completely bespoke customer experience. And then once metaverse platforms become mainstream, and you have platforms like the equivalent of a Shopify or a BigCommerce or a Magento, but creating metaverse experiences instead, I think then we're going to reach a level of standardization that makes your choice about which systems you integrate with natively. That makes your choice a little bit easier, because now all of a sudden you'll have some winners, like you chose the winner in Shopify to integrate with out of the box. You'll be able to pick your winner at that point. And you may not have to pick a winner in that space for another 5 years. You, as you say, you've built your platform to be scalable. You've built your platform to be flexible. And really, it can be adapted for use in any commerce experience, regardless of the type of channel that it's being executed in.
Definitely, for sure. That's how we try to overcome this problem of what would be the next big thing. Consumers are demanding personalizations. Brands want to offer it to them, and it won't be too crazy if we say that in 2 or 3 years we're going to have another massive trend that might affect the way that we do shopping or we do e-commerce. And we want to be ready for this one as well.
Sounds brilliant. Now, if you we're coming to the end of our time together, and I really appreciate your time, and it's been such an enlightening and fun chat. I super appreciate it. But if you look out, say 6 months from now for Rise, is there anything in the platform today that you go, I love what we've done, I love where we've come to, but in the next, say, 6 to 12 months, we'd like to add X, Y, and Z to our platform that's really going to be a game changer for our platform? Is there anything that you can share openly about what you'd like to see in your platform coming up?
Always. That's why I wake up in the morning for the next week challenge. And for us, at least now, we're aiming to be a much better omni-channel experience. Today, we have so many brands that sell in one POS and different online platform, and then they have their platform channels and they want to sell in a lot of different. The end customer couldn't care less. And building a one source of truth that can manage the gift card and store credit experience with all the complexities that comes with the reporting and the fraud attempts and a lot of other financial challenges is very hard. In 2022, we really want to crack this omni-channel experience and bringing it to offering the best in town omni-channel experience.
Love it. Can't wait to see what you roll out next. Now, I introduced a new segment a couple of episodes ago whereby I turn the mic over to you and I let you ask me one question, any question you like, and I will do my best to answer it. So it's your chance to turn the tables on me and ask me a question. Go, Yair. I would love to hear what you'd love to ask me.
Sure. So, Jason, you have so much great experience in our industry, in the e-commerce world. I'm sure you saw some winning shops all around the world. Would love to hear about your one winning brand that you say, I wish I built this one.
Oh, Wow, that is an awesome question. I absolutely love that question. I've never been asked that question before. And yes, there are a number of really awesome brands out there that I look at if I wanted to take the easy answer, I'd probably tell you Nike because I love their products and I love their marketing, but I won't take the easy answer because everybody says that. But I'll tell you who else I think has absolutely done probably the best job combining brand, D2C experience, product-led growth, and being super in tune with their customer. And that's probably Gymshark, combined with the level of humility of that brand. They just don't really have any pretension or arrogance. And I love what Gymshark is doing. I love that their experience is pretty straightforward. It's pretty basic, but man, are they so deeply in touch with their consumer. And I love what they do. I love how they portray themselves in the market. I know they've got themselves into hot water with some of the marketing they did about 6 months ago, and they were called a little bit tone deaf at times. But in general, I would say Gymshark right now, they have their finger on the pulse of e-com, almost unlike anyone else. Awesome, man. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you again. I hope that we can do another session like this in maybe 6 or 12 months. Let's see where the world is headed in terms of e-commerce. I'd love to know more about what you've done with Wix. Love to know more about what you've done with Rise. And man, I wish you every success. You've built an amazing product. You've built an amazing company, and you deserve very proud of what you have built and what your team has built. And I'd love to chat with you again soon, mate. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you, Jason. It was great being here. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the At the Coalface podcast. If you want more At the Coalface, you can subscribe to our premium e-commerce and digital newsletter, At the Coalface Digest.